Hello again there folks, Lone Adventurer here. Thanks very much for stumbling your way upon my channel and joining me for another adventure. Well, a kind of adventure, because today we are not going to be doing a playthrough of a particular game. I just wanted to put some cool stuff in front of your faces. I've had quite a flurry of deliveries and purchases over the last week or 3 or 4, and this is just an opportunity really for me to take a closer look at these things that are piling up around my ears and to show some cool stuff to you. So we're going to go through these things one at a time. There will be timestamps in the description below if there is something in particular you want to check out. Otherwise, I'm going to pop all of this to one side and pick something at random and make a start. And I'm going to be super cheeky here and start with a game supplement that I actually have some kind of stake in of sorts, because this is Lucha Libre Extravaganza, which is an expansion, or a supplement rather, for crime-fighting luchadors from Head Cheese, aka Martin Ule, and this is a book that has some maps in that I have drawn. So with this and hopefully everything else, or as many as I can remember, I will include links in the description below to where you can check it out yourselves. So Crime Fighting Luchadors is a role-playing game in which you are playing Mexican wrestlers who in their spare time also happen to fight crime. It's sort of tonally similar to things like Scooby-Doo or 60s era TV Batman. I think there's quite a long history of crime fighting luchador TV shows in Mexico, and that's the sort of influence that this game has. So what have we got in here? We've got a random name generator. We've got lots of cool art from Mustafa Bekir. This is Mustafa's work on the front cover, and it basically just adds a whole bunch of cool stuff. So we've got some mythic luchador masks that give you additional powers. For example, let's take one at random. Might go for that one. Oh, there's loads. The Mask of Kamazots. So there's the Mask of Kamazots. Incidentally, I have played on the channel the solo version of Crime Fighting Luchadors, which I think is called Luchador Hero. I might have that wrong. Apologies if I've got that incorrect. I don't know whether any of this stuff can be integrated into the solo game. The solo game is a lot of fun, and I'm kind of hopeful that maybe at some point Martin will work on a supplement, a dedicated supplement for the solo version of Crime Fighting Luchadors. So I don't know if this stuff will work in that game. So the Mask of Kamazots gives you the power of echolocation. It's sort of bat-like, isn't it? It's got big bat ears. When fighting in the dark, the owner rolls with advantage during the initiative phase, and all their attacks inflict +1 damage. And another power, a bite in the dark. If the wearer obtains a critical success on a roll to dodge, not only can they immediately counter-attack, but all the damage they inflict heals them by the same amount of points. I suspect that some of these things will be transferable to the solo game. There's so many of these masks, they're so awesome. There's loads. The kinetic mask, the dead man's mask. Then we've got some mutations that your hero could have if they are the beast archetype. Yeah, again, I'm pretty sure you could use these in the solo game. Psychic powers. And then you've got a new archetype, so that's like a character type that you can play, like a class. Then you've got some NPCs, that's kind of cool. Another new archetype, the Luchaborg, half luchador, half cyborg, I guess. Then we've got Muscle City, which is the location where the game generally takes place, and we've got a keyed map here with 42 different locations, and this is done by me, this map. So there you go. Under my Ways Unseen pseudonym. I also draw maps, and I drew that one of Muscle City. We've got some new enemies, including Grape of Wrath, Teenage Caveman, Suburban Sasquatch. These are pretty fantastic. And some super beasts. I guess these are like enemies that you can face. Big boss enemies, rather. Muscle Mummy and Bolthead. Roadkill and Wreckage. These are great. Dr. Dagon. Astro Zombie. I mean, it looks like a super fun game. Certainly the solo version is fun. Greta, She-Wolf of the Mounties. And Venus Sanguiniana. Sanguinea? Another archetype? Is that another bonus archetype there? More NPCs. Jefe del Fuego. El Gallo. El Shago Bisto. Inspiration table. There you go. Look, number 1, Batman 66. So you can roll 2d20 to get some inspiration. Shall we do it? Where are my dice? So we've got 4 and 15. So we could write an adventure inspired by Dirty Harry and the Avengers, the TV show. Fantastic. And then we are into Science Gone Bad, which is a standalone adventure that's included here. So some information for the referee, and then the various scenes that you go through, some NPCs. Very, very nice. And I'm flicking forward here so that we can have a look at my other map that I drew. This is the high school where a lot of the adventure takes place. I was super pleased when Martin asked me to draw this, but also a little bit intimidated since it included like challenges like, one room has to have a stone road going through it, another room has to have a Japanese village in it, another room has to have a helicopter in it, and I'm really pleased how it turned out. But it did challenge me and stretch my style to the absolute limits. But there you go. That is Lucha Libre Extravaganza. Check it out if you're a fan of the game and you like zany comic book-esque RPGs. That might be one to check out. On to the next thing. And the next thing is going to be Doom Deeper, which is an expansion pack for Doom Pilgrim. So Doom Pilgrim from Warclaw Games, and it's created by Václav Treja. I hope that pronunciation is correct. And in this game, you essentially have a series of cards with this fantastic, brooding, dark art on the back. And this is all drawn, painted, illustrated by Václav. And in each go, you have, is it 2 cards or 3 cards? I think it might be 3. Yes, 3. So you draw 3 cards, and based upon the images on the back, which you will become increasingly familiar with as you play, you choose 1 to discard from your current game, 1 to encounter later, and you pop that at the bottom of your deck that you have constructed for your current game, because you don't use all the cards all the time, and the other one you encounter immediately. And on the other side, you've got some quite dense text a lot of the time. Sometimes it's not, but most of the time it's quite dense, and really creative encounters that are quite interesting and play with different mechanics that the game has, such as curses and wounds. And you have this overland adventure in which the main aim really is to get your character to the end without meeting a horrific demise as a result of the various ways you can die by gaining wounds, diseases, curses, and psychic drops, which are things like fear. And as your level of fear increases, then you get closer to death. Now, Doom Deeper is an expansion pack that adds 3 mini supplements, 3 18-card expansions. So let's get those out. So first of all, Pagan Echoes. This is going to be the easy one to work out. That's this one here. Pagan Echoes is a thematic expansion, adding the flavour of heathenry and paganism into the mix. Concerning difficulty, beneficial cards are mixed with threatening ones. So some of the cards make it easier, some of the cards make it more difficult. So I guess they balance out and give you a sort of a thematic pagan tinge to the adventure. So we also have Futile Havens and Fatal Ends. I'm not sure which is which. I'll have to work that out. Futile Havens makes the game easier by bringing more relief, helping or healing points, and more easily achievable loot. However, nothing is too bright in this corrupt world. Even these havens are hostile under specific circumstances. Right, so I think that might be this one, because I think I've got a little icon of a castle in the corner. So these are our havens. And actually the art does seem slightly lighter. I mean, that doesn't look like much of a haven. Okay. Alright, maybe those are the havens. I'm not 100% sure. And then we've got Fatal Ends. Makes it harder with cards that are mostly fatal, bringing doom down on their own. Using these cards adds the need to remember the danger aspect of the game. However, you can also remember under which circumstances that particular card is beneficial, and indeed there can be some valuable gains here too, balancing the mortal risk. So you've got some cards, and I think it's these ones, probably these ones, look at that, which up the difficulty level. I haven't read how it is suggested you integrate these cards yet, but I suppose you could just say, oh, I want the game to be a bit harder, therefore I'm going to drop in 5 random cards from Futile Havens, and then when you come across those cards you're going to be thinking, hang on a second, that looks like one of those dangerous new cards. However, it might be that there is some advantage as well, or maybe if you're familiar with the card you know that under certain situations it is advantageous. So this one here, for example, is the Skull Collector. So out of the 54 new cards, this is the one we're going to check out. Skull Collector. You have heard rumours, but you laughed at them while the others trembled in fear. Such a creature living in this serene countryside? No way! But now when you meet it on this nice quiet evening, it is hard to continue laughing. The collector is measuring your head with an experienced eye. Will he want it? If you have more than 3 wounds, your skull is damaged, and he does not want it, you can go. If your nihilism, which is something you track, one of the psychic drops, if your nihilism is 2 or more, you can leave. The Skull Collector holds the opinion that a nihilist's skull is grown differently, deformed by a twisted view of the world that is unable to see the beauty of it. In the cases above, you can trade with him. So if you have more than 3 wounds, or nihilism is more than 2, you can trade with him. He buys any relic for 3 gold and any monster trophy for 2 gold. That's pretty awesome. If you have a skull for sale of a better quality than yours, I'm not sure how you would judge that, it is for 5 gold. Otherwise, some bad stuff happens. So there you go. That's what he means. Even though they're quite deadly, these cards can optionally have some advantageous things as well. So we won't look through them, but let's look at the art on the Pagan Echoes expansion. So as I said, Václav does all of the art himself. I think he uses inks primarily. And they're almost impressionistic, slightly open to interpretation. You never know whether the art implies a broadly positive or a broadly negative encounter. Oh, I like that one. Oh, that is some spooky shit. So the game is not only a good way for Václav to demonstrate his creativity in terms of weaving stories and narratives, it is also a fantastic showcase for his unusual art. So as you can see, the art and the stories on the backs of the cards, lend themselves to quite a dark narrative. And so if that's something you like the sound of, I've done a playthrough of the first game. I will do a playthrough using some of these cards before too long. And you can get the game on Gamecraft and itch.io, I believe. So there you go. That is Doom Deeper, an expansion pack for Doom Pilgrim. Next up, we've got the Vaults of Vaarn, books 1, 2 and 3. And this is an RPG setting stroke system created by a guy called Leo Hunt. And I've been aware of Vaults of Vaarn for quite some time. I remember Daniel from the Dungeon Dive doing a video on it at least a year ago, maybe longer than a year ago. And I went to my local game con over the summer of this year, 2024, and spotted someone sitting at a stall and selling copies of Vaults of Vaarn. And it turned out to be the designer of the game, Leo Hunt himself. And I didn't realise, not that there was any reason why I would, that Leo is very local to me. In fact, lives in the same city, I believe. So that was a bit of a surprise. I don't know why when I see these independently created zines, they almost always seem to be from people in America or sometimes in continental Europe. And I always just sort of accept that a lot of the time I'm never going to be able to pick up a physical copy of my own without paying some extortionate import fees. And there he is, living just around the corner from me, basically. So I grabbed myself a copy of the first 3 zines. There is a 4th one and a 5th one as well of some kind, I think. But I topped out at 3 after talking to Leo about the solo playability of these. And he said that the 3rd one is very popular, as it provides overland hex exploration rules and lends itself well to solo play. So as soon as I got these home, I started to think, I'll get these to the channel straight away. But one thing led to another, and other games came in that I wanted to prioritise. But I just love these games that are the brainchild of one individual. They had all this information in their minds and somehow they drew it out and created a coherent, complete world, setting and game using them. It's just very impressive. I like the slightly homemade feel of them, the layout. I mean, the layout of these books is very consistent and usable, but it's still got a certain sort of vibe to it. Which is added to by the choice of fonts and the artwork. So Vaarn is a science fantasy RPG setting. It draws inspiration from books like Dune, Hyperion, The Book of the New Sun, and the graphic novels of Mobius. I don't know any of that stuff. Even Dune, believe it or not, I'm not overly familiar with. If you haven't read those, that's totally fine. Good. It'll make my theft seem original. So basically in this world, the sun is going out, it's the end of history, and you are combing through the wreckage of the unimaginable eras of the future. Everything that could possibly happen has already happened and faded to dust. Leo says, I see Vaarn as an anti-canon setting where nobody can agree on the world's history, and ultimately it probably doesn't matter. However, there are a few facts about Vaarn that are known for sure. So these are sort of the touchstones of the setting. Vaarn is a blue sky desert littered with the ruins of the far future. It is inhabited by humans, mutants, robots, talking animals and fungus men. The sun is a dying red giant. Vaarn is both archaic and futuristic. Think sword fights inside the wrecked husks of ancient spaceships. Awesome. There's a place to the south called the New Hegemony, a bit like the Roman Empire. Nanomachines are inside everything, and it's normal to see wild animals with cameras growing out of their flesh. Nobody can agree on the chronology, but there was a great collapse which destroyed most of civilization. Before the collapse came the autarchy, a planet-wide dictatorship enacted by a lineage of genetically modified god kings. Before the reign of the autarchs, the Earth was ruled by AIs called Titans. No one knows what happened to them. So just this wild setting, brilliantly imaginative, and just endless possibilities. Then we've got some character creation. We've got some basic rules that you can use. And then we've got the ancestries. And this is where things start to get a bit nuts. We've got the true kin. So these are folks that were hidden inside sort of bunkers, as it were. Not really bunkers, because this game is wildly different to anything else you've sort of come across. But bunkers in that they were enclosed and they came out and they weren't all messed up as everything on the surface was. They've got loads of tables, so I'm going to be compelled to roll on some tables here. So let's find out who our true kin character would be. 18. Lenta, who is part of the exultant caste, Sacred Aristocracy, but has a foolish demeanour. Or you could re-roll to mix these up. But if we just took the 18 line, a foolish demeanour and wears religious apparel. 4, but is a muscular, with a wrinkled face, blonde hair, and nomadic attire. So you could mix and match for those things. We've got some special abilities. Then we've got the Keikogen. Keikogen are the mutated descendants of those unfortunates who were left to weather the great collapse upon the ruined surface of Earth. And then similarly we've got tables there. I mean, look, absolutely bonkers. Look at this. This D100 table of mutations. So let's do that. 28. 28 gives us echolocation. We just had echolocation in another book, didn't we? How strange. You can see in pitch darkness. Let's have another one. What an odd coincidence. 73 would give us powerful jaws. You could bite through metal. So you can really construct nutty characters. We've got some more. We've got synths, new beasts, mycomorphs, or mycomorphs. Then we've got some weaponry, armour, gear, mystical gifts, faith, mastery of arcane nanotech, abuse of psychoactive fungus or mutation has given your mind uncanny influence over the natural world. Gifts are not items you carry, but intrinsic abilities you possess. Cool. Source of power and the actual gift. Quality and form. So is that relating to the gift? Yeah, I'm not too sure how that would work. So I guess you roll D20 for the mystical gift. That's not the right dice. That's not a D20 either. Come on, get it together. 14, religion is the source of our power. And 13, second sight. So we have second sight. What does that mean? That means you can sort of see out of body in a way, right? I can't quite remember what second sight means. And then the quality and form. So if you're on 2d20, 2 and 12, 2 going along to 12, addicting. So maybe I'm addicted to using this religiously endowed mystical gift of second sight. Awesome. Exotica, strange rare objects, cybernetics. So it's a very table heavy book. Then you've got some referee rules and content generators and some NPC generators, names. Exotica. D100 Exotica. I'm going to rush through a little bit. Got some books. Then we've got Oases of the Wastes. So I guess oases are very important in the desert. So we've got some ways of generating an oasis and making it different to others. Then we've got some nomad tables, some tables for creating nomads. Drug tables, ruins. So maybe you come across a ruin and it is barracks. It was barracks. It is now a hermitage. But also part of creature territory, and it's abandoned. So you can very quickly create these very unique locations. Gods, bandits, arcology domes. So those are the domes where the true kin started, so you can sort of generate unique domes, trade caravans. And then we've got a bestiary here with some crazy things in. It's just so cool. And looking through it now, I'm thinking, oh, man, I really want to play with this, but I've got so many other games I want to play. I don't think I'm going to have time to go through the other ones. So very quickly, Vaults of Vaarn issue 2 is a city-focused supplement, I believe. So focus on Nomon, gaudy jewel of Vaarn's southern badlands, the city of 1,000 shaded bazaars, a thirsty, bustling morass of dusty courtyards and guild halls and artisan workshops. Just the lovely descriptive writing that I have no hope of ever achieving in the games that I create. It's very impressive. If there is something to be sold in Vaarn, then Nomon is the place to buy it. Everything within the crumbling blue walls of the city has a price. Water, food, song, love and death. And then the third one, like I said, is very overland focused. So the interior is the name outsiders give to the trackless blue desert that forms Vaarn's heartland. It is a harsh and inhospitable landscape and has claimed the lives of many travellers over the millennia. But there are people and monsters and marvels to be discovered in the vastness. So we've got rules in here for some more stuff for nomads. These are new ancestries. The Cacklemore Exile, the Litheling, the Plainy Folk. Look at that guy. Then we've got rules for travel, settlement generation, landmarks. Mega cool. Alright, so I think I'm going to have to leave Vaults of Vaarn there. I will try and get it to the channel. Let me know if you would like that to happen. Or maybe you would just like me to flick through the other books on screen. I mean, if that's something you fancy seeing, let me know that as well. On to something else, I think. This is going to be a long video. Let's have a look at the Hollow Dungeons. So this is a tabletop RPG supplement from Exploring Map, who, and I hope I am correct about this, is also the Paramyth Games. If I've got that wrong, I'll drop a little comment down at the bottom of the screen here. Who created the Void Halls game that I covered on the channel recently. And this lovely box here, which I was kindly sent by the designer, who is Gerasimus Kal-Arath, Thank you very much, Gerasimos, for sending this over to me. And all it really is a box of cards that's hard to open, apparently. And each card has a location on it that you can use in a tabletop game. It's a nice box. I appreciate the simple things in life, and I appreciate a nice box. So in here we've got a little overland adventure map for a land called Aenon. And then over on the back we've got some basic instructions. Explore these dark dungeons as part of the Hollow Adventures world, or use them in any TTRPG. So for each one it looks like we've got a lightness level. We've got dungeon entrances, continuous dungeons, that's onwards into a new location. That's a trap symbol. Then we've got some treasures and some furniture that could contain loot. And being a map drawer myself, I'm just impressed by anybody who can go the extra mile to put together a really nice, well put together supplement like this. Again, it's something I'd love to do, but it just requires a greater degree of business acumen and professionalism that I just haven't managed to attain yet. And so whenever you're playing any kind of TTRPG, I guess you could just be like, oh, your character has found a dark cave entrance. What's going to be in it? Let's check it out. And there you go. So we've got some kind of steps down, a little winding corridor into a tomb with two sarcophagi, and then I guess some jars of some kind around the side. And if you're looking for that sort of instant, straightforward inspiration, there you go, there you have it. So these are very sort of traditional looking locations. Like I said, quite straightforward in a way, but very varied. And yeah, just a nice product, really. I can definitely see myself using these when I do solo role-playing. And actually I can see myself using them if I were running an adventure for other people too, just so you can pop something down on the table and people have a visual in front of them. Super cool, very nice. This one's a bit spidery. Got a corpse in the middle. So yeah, that is Hollow Dungeons from Exploring Map. I believe you can get digital copies of these online. There's a website, exploringmap.com, where I suppose you can check out if you want a physical copy. What a nice resource, and I'm very glad to have that in my collection. There we go, on to the next one. Next up we have got these little super indie, cheap and cheerful games from Mammoth Miniatures. I saw someone sharing a photo of these on Facebook, and I just thought they looked super cute, and they were cheap, and they were based in the UK, so I thought I would grab them. I haven't even opened these yet, so I'm going to open this one now, and we will check out what is in it. It does say contains the rules, dice and 2 paper miniatures for a complete pub table battle game. So this one is Super Tiny Skirmish, and this one is Super Tiny Sorcery. Super Tiny Sorcery is an expansion for Super Tiny Skirmish that lets you add magic and mysticism to your games of pub table combat. Alright, so probably we will leave that one for today and just check out this one here. Okay. Oh, that's nice. They come in a little sealed baggie, so you can pop it back in there. Got these tiny dice that come with it. Look at these. Gotta love a tiny dice. And then we've got our characters. I see, so you cut them out and then you sort of fold them on themselves so they're double-sided, and then that's the base. Quite cool retro art on those. And then the rules. Here we go. So we've got building a fighter. So you do get to assign stats to your little fighter. Then turn, rolling, moving, fighting, thinking, winning. And then some equipment stuff on the back. So just a nice little game with a homemade sort of vibe. And that is from Mammoth Miniatures, purveyor of hand-sculpted figures, tabletop games and other such nonsense. www.mammothminiatures.com. I thought that looked cool. I will be checking that out soon. It's a skirmish game, so I'll need another human to play it with, but luckily I do know one or two of those, so I will force one of them to play that with me. That is Super Skirmish. I'll pack that back up and we will check out something else. Next up we've got Kal-Arath, which is a role-playing game for 1+ players in a world of high adventure. And this is from a designer called Castle Grief. It has recently had a pretty successful Kickstarter. This is the original game, which I believe had some editing, a little bit of tightening up as part of the new Kickstarter. And then there was 2 additional expansions included. The Valley of the Black Ziggurat, which adds an additional area to the world of Kal-Arath that you can explore. I believe that area is more dangerous and therefore your character needs to be a bit more powerful. And then Lords of the Pit, which I think adds a sort of a campaign mode in which you are playing a fighter, like a pit fighter. I've printed these out myself. I have not yet bound them. I realised I didn't really have thick enough thread or the right tools for the job. So I have purchased a few bits and pieces on eBay, and I'm going to be binding these so that they are a bit more usable. So if you haven't come across Kal-Arath before, Chocolips does a really good playthrough of it. I'll pop a link to that down in the description below. I think Daniel from the Dungeon Dive has done some coverage of it before as well. But it's another one like Vaults of Vaarn in that it is self-contained. It has a unique and specific setting, and it also includes all of the rules that you need to play it. I believe it does make clear that you can play it with other rule sets as well, or you can use the simple rule set that is included. The main difference between this and Vaults of Vaarn, beyond the setting, is that Kal-Arath is solo first. So it is designed from the ground up for solo play. So just to give an idea of the flavour of where it is set, I'll read this out. Greetings, wanderer of wild and treacherous lands, seeker of glory and power untold. You have set your foot upon the perilous path into a savage land, a realm where ancient demons demand sacrifice and vie for power, and mortals strive against one another with blood, magic and steel. This a massive step is known to its peoples as Kal-Arath, although the barbarians of the north refer to the vast grassland as the Krieg. Arathi civilization centres around the stony plateau of Kareld, heart of the Khanate of Akai, the demon lord of Kal-Arath. Across these untamed vistas, the battle barges of countless warlords sail a sea of grass and stone, crews hungry for the favour of squabbling demon rulers, both demanding and cruel. To survive in Kal-Arath is to dance with death, yet the rewards for the bold are riches and renown beyond imagining. Here are monks and mystics drunk on the rotting blood of human sacrifice, practising arts, considered inhuman by those foreign to this place. Their bodies are hardened by fighting arts taught to them by their dark masters, and their minds are fixed on nighted voids beyond mortal understanding. In the sky beneath the blinding sun, one can sometimes see the riders of the fearsome flying lizards called Pterodon, doing battle with flashing lances or dark magics. These riders are sometimes favoured champions of spiteful demonic nobility, or mercenary captains, or perhaps even the scouts or messengers of some wealthy merchant king. For Kal-Arath is not truly ruled by any. The city of Kal-Arath may be the seat of power in Akai, but his lordship is contested at every turn by mortals and demon alike. This is a land where even a lowly pit fighter may earn the love of the crowd and become king, where rich traders and clever merchants hold more power than gods, and he who earns the secret of decaying scrolls and forgotten codexes might set himself up as opposition even to the demons who rule this land from their blood-soaked temples. This is Kal-Arath. Who will you be? How will you die? So we have got, first of all, worth noting the artwork, which I believe is all by Castle Grief. I don't know whether they employ other artists as well. There's no credits in here, so maybe all by Castle Grief. We've got some rules, character levelling up rules, some skills specific to classes. So we've got a warrior, a rogue, a mystic, an explorer, combat rules, death, morale, magic. Casting magic looks like it's quite dangerous in Kal-Arath. We've got some critical failure events that might happen if your magic fails. Then we've got some spells. So yeah, I mean, we're past the rules already, and we're into sort of tables and flavour. And this is a game that's heavy on flavour. It's got, like I said, a very specific setting that's quite rich. And I kind of like that. I like going into a world that people have created. That would be my preference beyond games that are kind of a blank canvas and allow you to put your own ideas into it. I guess there's a place for that, but I prefer games like this where you're experiencing a designer's vision. So we've got equipment, weapons, and then you're into gameplay, and this is where it sort of establishes what you are going to do, and this is beneficial for a solo player, of course. We've got a D12 table entitled What Fate Brought You Here. So this is kind of how you start. What is your situation at the start of your adventure? So if you were to roll a 10, you would get, your desire more than anything is to become a champion within the Black Legion, the dread force that serves Akai and enforces his awful will across the steppes of Kal-Arath. You'll have to prove yourself by winning the grand tournament at the Fighting Pits. And therefore you have a sort of a starting point and maybe some ideas about how your adventure will go. We've got some oracles for a general yes-no oracle, and then some oracles for story questions, turning points, situations, insight into people, places and things. I think this probably is a game better suited to solo players who have already experimented a little bit with solo gaming. Maybe some people like to throw themselves in at the deep end and are quite comfortable just grappling with these ideas. But yeah, I would say probably more for a seasoned solo gamer. I haven't played this game yet, and I find it slightly intimidating, although I do think that you can just sort of start playing. The mechanics on show here do make it possible to play it in a sort of a board gamey fashion, you know, rolling to see what happens next, rolling how to deal with that, and then you can add in more creative role-playing elements as you see fit or as you increase in confidence. So we've got overland travel, some interesting weather tables. The weather has very specific effects. So for example, if it's autumn and you roll that there's heavy rain, you get half travel speed, -2 to foraging and -1 to getting lost. So lots of mechanics there that you can rely on. We've got mechanics for getting lost and for foraging. And then you've got rolling for points of interest. So you've got a D66 table here, and you might come across something of interest, and then you can use that to spark what happens to your character. Then we've got encounters, different encounters that you might have. So again, you can roll D66, and if you roll a 45, you would encounter an artifact dealer with 3d6 guards. Then we've got settlements, factions, groups, important NPCs and motivations for those NPCs, traits of NPCs. This is a good one, rumours and opportunities. So you could roll for a rumour, and that could spark a little adventure for your character to go on. Potential conflicts and challenges, special features or events. And then you've got rules for generating dungeon areas, hazards, obstacles, foes, items. There's a lot in here. The Castle Grief has packed in a lot of stuff into just the base game. We've got a bestiary with quite a few different bits and pieces at the back there. So even the base game, I mean, this is another one where just flicking through it is making me want to play. I really do want to get to this game and to Vaults of Vaarn. Maybe over Christmas, I've got some time off. Maybe I'll just spend a whole day playing Kal-Arath and a whole day playing Vaults of Vaarn, and then I'll have some videos for next year. That might be what I do. Then the Ziggurat, I think, is a similar sort of thing, really. Like I said, it's just a new area. That's what we've got in here. We've got, new points of interest, new encounters, and descriptions of new areas like the jungles of La. Points of interest in the jungles of La, the Valley of the Black Ziggurat. It's super cool. There's so much flavour and imagination that has gone into this game. I'm just glad that I have it, to be honest. Kal-Arath, there you go. Just another exciting little creation of one mind, and it excites me. It's something I want to dive into and explore. Next up, we have got the Dungenerator cards, and these were kindly provided to me by Roland Kuntz, who is the artist and designer of these little card packs, and he sent them to me with his new game that is currently on Kickstarter, possibly still on Kickstarter when this video comes out, I'm not too sure. Die in a Dungeon, the name of the game is, and that is a game that utilises these packs as part of the game, but they can be used separately as well as a resource for tabletop role-playing games. So what we have got here essentially is a selection of dungeon location chunks, and you can use these cards to build up a location to use in a role-playing game. We've got some simple instructions on the cards here. So in order to use them, we would need to remove the entrances, stairs and treasures from the deck and set them aside. Pick an entrance and place it in the play area. Flip the other entrances to their stairs side, add one to the deck. Shuffle the treasures into the deck. Keep all dead end sides face down. And then once you've done that, add rooms from the deck to each open exit, a single room at a time. And and then if they would overlap, you flip them over, because on the reverse of each one you have a dead end. Not those ones, because those are the entrances, I think. So if you were setting up, and then you would flip those over, shuffle them in, and then you can build up your little dungeon location, moving your characters through like that. And then if you place a location, so then if you run out of room, so for example you got to the edge of the table over here, then you would flip it over and then you would have a dead end. And that's it. That's how the Dungenerators work. There's 2 decks at the moment. There's this one here and then this one, which is kind of a jungly equivalent. I'm not sure it's got any different mechanics. No, I think it works in exactly the same way. It's just got different visuals. And if you look closely at the cards, there are details on there that might spark little details in your adventure, in your quest. Here we've got some kind of little fire pit area. This one's got a few tables and I don't know, maybe that's a cooking pot in the corner. This one's got some like vines. This one looks like it might have a couple of huts or something on it. Some kind of half-buried gigantic skull. So yeah, it's a really cool idea. I really like how it works. Just a smart little resource that I thought I would mention a second time. I have got a Dungeon playthrough, did I say that already? Well, there'll be a link to that in the description down below. And there we go, that is Dungenerator. Let's take a look at something else. How are we getting on? I think I've got maybe 2 more things to show you, so we'll just get those going. First up, we've got the Seeker of Valenreath, which is an adventure gamebook from MD Makin. Now, I am very aware that I started a playthrough on the channel of Steam Highwayman, an adventure gamebook series that is a lot of fun. I'll put a link up in the corner of the screen to the first part of that playthrough, but it's been a few months since I've done a playthrough video for that game, and I do want to get back to it. I feel a little bit guilty about the fact that I haven't continued it on the channel. I am going to bring it back. I'm going to bring it back, do a few more videos, and then we might check this one out next. So I saw this online. I saw that it got some very good reviews. I think someone in one of the gamebook related Facebook groups was recommending it, and I liked the sound of it, so I thought I would grab myself a copy. Enter the fantasy realm of Lorelos and embark on a quest to find a relic from a time of old magic. As a seeker, under the employ of the Seekers Guild, you must battle orcs, goblins, and many other formidable foes as you make for the ancient ruins in the Blackspire Mountains, north of the township of Valenreath. With a reward awaiting the one who can complete this task, many a seeker has gone before you. All have failed. Can you be the one with the skill and strategy to succeed at this quest? So I think the reason this appealed to me is that it is, I believe, more of a linear experience than Steam Highwayman or Fabled Realms, which is all well and good. Those stories have branching narratives and random quests that you can go on and that sort of thing, and no clear through story. Or at least they don't prioritise the through story, or at least they don't focus on a main narrative. But this one here, the Seeker of Valenreath, does focus on a main narrative. I guess it's a bit more on the rails, but at the same time it has a bit more depth, a bit more substance than a fighting fantasy adventure. For example, here's a fighting fantasy book that I've played on the channel, Talisman of Death. This has got a total of 400 entries, whereas Seeker of Valenreath has got 1,000. So it's just got a little bit more depth to it, whilst also providing that more linear experience. I don't know a huge amount about the mechanics of it, but let's have a look here. We've got strength and skill abilities. You have to choose one of 3 talents: marksmanship, roguecraft and athleticism. Some combat instructions as you would imagine. Health points, strength, value, unsuccessful attacks. And it looks like combat has got a bit more substance than the Fighting Fantasy books. Combat modifiers, combatant class. Yeah, it looks like the combat is actually moderately in depth, which sounds pretty cool. Fighting more than one foe. Battle experience. The more you do battle, the better you become, and you will develop specific perks in combat. Each time you enter combat and are victorious, record each victory in the box provided on your combat tracker. Healing potions, escaping combat. Yes, there's quite a lot to it. Bow and throwing weapons. Alchemists, apercu. Don't know what apercu means. Intellect, perception and cues. So yeah, it looks like it's moderately in depth. I mean, nothing too complicated, I would imagine. But, you know, a bit more substance than Fighting Fantasy. And yeah, maybe just a slightly less involved experience than those other books that I mentioned before. I was looking through for a character sheet there, but I can't see it. Maybe you have to just download it. Oh, here it is. So we've got a quest log and a combat tracker. Cool. So look, I mean, nothing too complicated. You've got the inventory there, a talent, a bit for notes, skill, strength and gold. So you're not tracking a huge amount of things. Nice. That's the Seeker of Valenreath. And finally, we've got Knave, which is a role-playing game system from the guy over at Questing Beast. Ben Milton is his name. We've got art in here by Peter Mullen, maps by Kyle Latino, and it's the second edition of the game Knave, which was released by Ben some years ago, I guess, a few years ago. This was on Kickstarter. I think it was it either earlier this year or late last year. And there's plenty of videos about this online. It's a cool little system that lends itself to old school style gaming. One of the main things about it is the simplicity and speed of character creation. You have some ability scores, and then this is the instruction for creating characters. You have D100 careers. So this is a classless system. You don't have races, you don't have classes. All you have is a career. So you roll on this table here, and that is 1. So a 1 means that you are playing an acolyte. And as an acolyte, you get a candlestick, a censer, and some incense. And if we had rolled, look at that, a 4, we would become an alchemist, and we would get acid, mortar and pestle, and 6 vials. And you sort of use that career and those items to inspire your character. So it's quite simple in that sense. The rules of this game are pretty minimal but well fleshed out. Item slots and wounds, levelling up. When a creature attempts something risky, they make a check by rolling a d20 and adding on one of their ability scores. If their total meets or exceeds a target set by the GM, they succeed. So I suppose as a solo player you would think to yourself, okay, my character is attempting to convince this thug in the alley not to attack, so maybe we would use charisma. I think a thug in an alley would be quite inclined to attack us, so we'd make it moderately hard. Maybe look for a success roll of 14 or more, and then you would roll your d20, add on your charisma, and see whether you meet it. So it's nice and simple, really, in terms of doing checks like that. Nice rules about travelling with weather, and then you get into a really incredible amount of tables. And I've seen said online that this game is worth buying for the tables alone, and I agree. The tables in this are amazing. It's the main reason why I bought the book, really, although I think the game itself looks very appealing and accessible as well. So look, what have we got here? Signs, locations, structures, place traits. So this is all related to travelling and finding locations. So we might find a, what's that, 69. We might find a port, and then we give it a trait, 54, a murmuring port. So maybe that means there's lots of rumours abound in the port, and people are talking in hushed tones. And what are the rumours about? Then you've got rules on delving. Incidentally, I really like the artwork in this as well. Delve shifts. Interesting. And I think we had shifts on the... did we have shifts? Oh yeah, travel shifts. Yeah, I guess a shift is sort of like a change, something that can prompt change. I might be wrong about that. If you're travelling 22, a downburst. So how would a sudden, intense deluge of rain affect what is happening? And delve shifts, similarly, we've got 2 animal sounds. So if you're delving in a location and there's some animal sounds, and how will that change what is happening? Or 14, construction. So you come across a construction, or some construction is taking place. So we've got delve shifts, we've got D100 rooms. So I've already used that once or twice, just as I am drawing maps as ways unseen. For inspiration, I've been using that. Room details, room themes, dungeons, trap effects, hazards, mechanisms, and then encounters. It really is incredible, this book. So you've got a 2d6 NPC reaction table here, a D100 activities table. When you encounter some creature, what are they doing when you encounter them? So rather than just walking into a room and being attacked by a creature, maybe that creature is 49, guarding. They're a guard. What are they guarding? Then we've got a combat rules, spell casting, a great big load of spells. What's that? 4 pages of spells. Some methods for designing your own spells. Whole bunch of tables for spells. Mutations, delusions, disasters. Relic magic. Alchemy, potions, colours, textures, tastes, ingredients, equipment, tools. I mean, there is an awful lot in here. I might just skip ahead a little bit. City details, street details, buildings, inn names, food, factions, missions. This is cool. So if you're wondering, what is my character going to do? Roll a 7. I'm rolling very low numbers. 7. Bribe faction. So you would create a faction, and then your character is intent on bribing them for some reason. So 5. Still rolling very low. Weird. The Assassin's Guild. 12. What's the trait of the Assassin's Guild? A charitable Assassin's Guild. I'm not sure why we would blackmail a charitable Assassin's Guild, or bribe them rather, but you'd have to work that out. What you're doing in downtime, recruiting NPCs. Yeah, there's a lot in here. We've got a nice bestiary at the back, a nice gameplay example of a couple of pages, and some designer's commentary. So this is where Ben is just sort of explaining why he made the game as it is. A bit of sort of behind the scenes, how the sausage is made kind of thing. And there it is. That is Knave. Hope you enjoyed that, folks. Hope there was something there that you found interesting or you were curious about. Maybe let me know in the comments below what you would like to see from this list brought to the channel in terms of playthroughs. Otherwise, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. Please consider liking this video, subscribing to my channel if you want to see more adventures like these games clearly contain. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.